I was just over talking to Muriel Carpenter at the Environmental Justice Caucus and talking to her about the Green Amendment and kind of encouraging them to talk to some people who are not enamored with it and hear their points of view and to address them. I think they're kind of in a very positive echo chamber and they're dismissing the criticism, and that's not going to get it through the roundhouse.
Yeah, in this business, you make a career making friends.
And you have to compromise.
Yeah, they're just not going to listen to you if they're not interested in what you have to offer. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly. Well, I just spent about 10 minutes on the phone with Spike trying to get him on and turned him over to Ivan. So we'll see. He's supposed to pick up the 11 o'clock session of this.
If he can't, I'll stay with you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Hey, Tiffany. You're on mute, cutie. You're on mute. Tiffany, you're on mute.
Well, that's the problem right there.
There you go. I saw your lips moving.
Yeah. Some of the problems, like everyone's problem getting on is very individualized. So I think that was the best thing to do is hand it over to Ivan. Ivan and Lloyd seemed to get through some of them. And then like for Sandy, we couldn't get past her problem. So the best next option is to go to Facebook Live and watch what's happening or being streamed there.
All right. And Heather Benavides was trying really hard to get on this morning. Did she break through?
I think so. I haven't seen any messages from Rocky, but I handed Rocky over to Danny because Danny is also like a step up above Lloyd as far as understanding the Zoom part. So I figured it was really important we try to get her on there.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, why don't we give it a couple of minutes, and then I want to run through some of the legislative priorities and some of the things that we're doing. I kind of feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but this is being recorded. So if anyone is really bored out of their mind in the future, they can come here and have an exciting half hour and learn about what this caucus is doing. Evelyn, you feeling okay? You get so Zach was there. That was very nice. Good conversation about agricultural tourism.
Right. We had a few people in the rural caucus, covered some important points, I think, too, about transparency with bills and pre-filing.
Hey, Evelyn, bring that up to Greg. He may understand why they do that. Hey, Muriel.
Greg,
hey, Evelyn, good to see you.
Hi, Greg.
Good to see you.
So we're going to repeat. Can I have 30 seconds to talk about that?
Please,
yeah, sure.
Okay, so as I was looking through on the behalf of the Rural Caucus at pre-filed bills, of course, my first stop was the daily bill locator. And I got a whole list. There's 44 bills pre-filed in that list. Okay. And then I was brought to my attention this morning, 5 minutes before this thing is supposed to start, that, the Senate bills, the link was announced on Twitter. How come you didn't see the Senate bills? Because there are several rural, 4 or 5 of the Senate pre-files have to do with rural issues. And so my question is there a reason for the House bills to be listed on the New Mexico legislative website right there in front of us? Whereas if you wanted to see the Senate bills, you had to dig and get a link from Twitter.
Yeah, I have no idea why they do that, but the Senate doesn't pre-file bills.
Why? I mean, I just
have
you don't know why.
Yeah, no, their leg staffers handle those files for the senators. I'm having an issue with it myself because I got a couple of bills that Harold has put in for filing that I'd like to start sending links out on, and I don't have yet.
I just put the Senate daily bill locator in the chat there, Greg, if you want to share that. I got that from Evelyn this morning. We'll have to talk about it, you know.
Because, I'm sorry. Thank you for bringing
No.
that up. I'm in the Environmental Justice Caucus, and I had the same problem. Where are all the Senate bills? So
Well,
thanks
copy the
for-
link. Yeah, take that link out of the chat and use it. That was so helpful. I'm glad you did that research.
Thank you for finding that, Evelyn.
That was Steffi Weisberg, because she's the one who contacted me this morning. She's really keeping her finger on environmental issues. The
Oh, yeah.
same, I'm trying rural, and your caucus is dealing with vets. And so we need to keep our eye on that.
We absolutely do. And the Senate looks like it's got several bills filed. Like 2.5 pages. Sorry, that's not a good count, but maybe there's 30 bills that have already been filed. If you click on that link, and they started as early as 3 January, and this is up to the 7th of January. So they've got quite a bit.
So altogether, probably 70, because there's about 44 bills and memorials listed on the daily locator. So
Okay.
a lot to look at. And, I wonder how much is actually going to get done, because this is a 30-day session.
Yeah, very little, but they're filing them. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start. I want to thank you all for coming to the Veterans Caucus breakout room here. I really am preaching to the choir, but and I'm going to kind of talk to Muriel because you're a little newer to this. Our mission in our caucus is to get more veterans to join the Democratic Party, and to get the Democratic Party to address veterans and military families' issues and talk about them. The Republican Party doesn't own veterans, but the Democratic Party has to claim them. In the last election, Biden got more votes from the military than Trump. Not everybody knows that, but the Democrats have to start claiming. Maybe mute if you're not, I'll mute you.
My bad.
Okay. So anyway, what we've been doing for almost a year now is reaching out to people who are in the caucus and letting them know what we're doing with our advocacy, and then reaching out to legislators. So we are ramping up for the next session that starts on the 18th, and we've had 2 meetings with legislators. We had 11 of them attend, and we had our vice chair and the chair for the Committee for Veterans Advocacy talk to them for 2 hours. We went through 12 of our priority issues, and we asked them, would you sponsor? Would you co-sponsor? And will you vote? And we had a wonderful reception. I was very happy with it. And then yesterday we had our second meeting, because not everyone could make the first one. And I think we had about 7 people, but 4 people I'm going to meet with offline and talk to them. It was just a time crunch. So what some of our priority issues are, number one, there are veterans courts in many states in the US. We've got 3 of them here in New Mexico. These are specialty courts that are kind of run parallel with a district court. So for example, a vet comes home to New Mexico, little disturbed, doesn't get into a job, maybe has some problems with substance abuse, gets rolled up by the cops, goes before the judge, and the judge realizes that this person is a veteran. If you've got a veterans treatment court in that district, then you'll have a mentor assigned to the veteran, and they will work with them one-on-one, get them through substance abuse, treatment, help them get a job. If they need a home, find them some lodging and work with them. These are extremely successful. The recidivism rate is 17%. And if you compare that to the general prison population, recidivism is anywhere from 49% the first year to 87% after 5 years. So these are really successful. We want to keep vets out of jail because the cycle is terrible. We want to keep everyone out of jail. So there are 3 working in the state, and our Committee for Veterans Advocacy has been working with 5 other districts since last June that are very interested in standing these up. So what we're asking the legislators, for example, is we don't need money now. We just want to inform you about this and the importance of it. We'd like one across the states, across the entire state. And would you work with us probably next session? So that was well received. And then our second big priority bill is America Serves. And That is a coordination organization. There are 20 of them established across the US in different sites. So like in a small population state like ours, we would have what you'd call New Mexico serves, not America serves, but New Mexico serves. I think Texas has 3 of them because they got really big cities with a lot of vets and a lot of people. So the organization comes in and they work with the existing service providers, health, housing, wellness, all that kind of stuff that are in the state, and they are the one-stop shop for veterans. So for example, if a veteran needs a lot of help with reintegration to society, they call them and they will work with the vet as they talk to these different service providers. So we don't have it in New Mexico. Greg Seeley has been working this for a couple of years, and we went down to Truth or Consequences and briefed all the members of the Military and Veterans Affairs Interim Committee on it. It was well received. Greg had a couple of subject matter experts fly in for it. So what we're asking them is for $100,000 this session so that they can do a landscape assessment. And they go out and basically determine supply and demand. This is how many vets you have. This is what their issues are. This is what they need. And then they go out and they talk to Goodwill, VIC, all these other resource centers and find out what the supply is. And then they look at it. Do we have any gaps? Do we have overlap? And they identify those. And then if they start that up in New Mexico, we have this wonderful coordination arm that works hand in hand with the VA and DVS to help the veterans. So these are the 2 really big ones for us, obviously, because they would have a statewide impact, a very positive impact. Greg, did I miss anything on New Mexico serves or?
No, that's great. That's fantastic. That's
Okay.
You got it exactly right.
So we would be the 20th site in the nation if we can get this done.
That's right.
Yeah. A couple other issues that we're looking at is military retirement pay tax relief. So a lot of people don't understand, but when you serve on active duty, depending on what state you're a resident of, you don't pay any tax on your active duty income. Like I was, I'm from Chicago. I was a member of, I was a resident of Illinois forever, and I never paid tax. So when I retired and we moved to New Mexico, I'm paying tax on my retirement. Not a big deal for me, but a lot of people make their decisions on where they're going to retire, just eliminating the 4 states that still tax military retirement. And of course, New Mexico is one of those 4 states. So we are missing out on bringing those people into our workforce because veterans have a great work ethic. They've learned skills. A lot of them are very technical, and we need those people. You can retire from the military at 20 years. Like my husband, Rick, his father joined at 17, retired with 22 years of service as a chief warrant officer at 39 years old. He worked another 30 years, but they didn't come to New Mexico. So we want to get rid of that tax. Cheryl, you got your hand up. Please, what's your question, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to add an idea onto your New Mexico Vet Serve, and that is to maybe partner with the Native American Caucus in the northwest corner of the state, because we all know that the Native Americans volunteer and serve in the military at one of the highest rates. And I'm sure they'd love to work with you on that, Greg. And then the other thing pertains to what you were just saying about retirement, Claudia. I know that this is such an important bill to Chris Cedillo, and he has been pushing it and wants to help. I think he's a member of your caucus, but I'm not sure.
He is. I've been talking to him, Cheryl. Yeah, he's
but
wonderful.
anyway, he suggests a dollar limit on it, like your first 30,000 of income, which would help a lot of the non-commissioned officers and enlisted people. So, that makes sense to put a cap on it of $30,000 or $40,000 of retirement income. I'm going to drop off of here and go back to the main. I just wanted to see if you were having better luck than I was, and you are. So enjoy your chat.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I want to just comment on the last that you brought up, because Senator Pope is doing that. I think they're going at 35 or 40,000.
Yeah, cool.
Phase it in. So that's a great idea. Thank you.
That's right. I knew Harold was supporting that also. Yeah.
All right.
Care.
Thanks for stopping by. So after the military retirement pay tax relief, we've got property tax relief. And the main issue with that, you know, is that veterans will come here and buy a home. They're retired. Many are on disability. And as home values have increased, property taxes go up. And like a lot of lower income people, they're priced out of their home. And that's their single source of equity for retirement. So we're trying to avoid that. We'd like them to be able to stay in their homes. A lot of these bills, not so much the first ones I mentioned, but a number of these bills really would apply for almost anybody. You know, we need specialty courts that deal with individuals with substance abuse, not just veterans, throughout the state. But you have to fund them, and you have to staff them, and you have to get them up and running. And, you know, when you're looking at the cost of a court, you have to weigh that against the cost of lost productivity of these members being in society. You have to look at the cost of incarceration and the cost to their families. So frankly, whatever these specialty courts cost, you're going to save money compared to what you're losing if you don't have them. Eliminating veteran suicide and homelessness, regulation of predatory lending, the state veterans home, welcoming military families. There's a couple of bills, veterans hiring preference, and New Mexico Purchasing Program veterans preference. Those are the rest of our issues that we've been working with. They're all on the website. So let me put that into the chat here. Have you been to our website, Muriel? Oh, wait, you're muted. Are you there? I don't know how to unmute you from here. I don't know that I have that control. Tiff or Greg, do you have any insight on how we can help Muriel unmute?
Make sure that your computer versus the mute button on Zoom, make sure that your computer is unmuted. It is?
Okay, I'm good.
Go.
Okay, good.
I see what my non-technical self is doing wrong. I was using my, there's my camera. I just bought my camera this morning, everybody, so, okay, keep flipping around.
Taking it out for a spin.
Yeah, you know, I haven't been on your website yet, but I definitely love, I support all the legislation that you just mentioned. I think it's extremely important. And I will visit your website. I mean, being a new caucus, we're looking for someone to build our website for us. So, you know, we just need those kind of helps right now. But I will take a look at it because I'm sure it's set up very nicely.
Thank you. Yeah, it takes a while. I mean, you're brand new. We were brand new for all intensive purposes last January. And the website's a big deal. You know, communications is so important. But I just put in the chat what our website is. And then if you click on advocacy, you can just play around looking around there. And please join if you would like to. But you can see what we're advocating for. Damien Laura, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sorry for jumping in a little bit late. I appreciate it and
It's okay.
excited.
Great to see
I know
you.
that. Yeah, I know that I promised Diane Gertrude some information, and I'm going to email it first thing Monday morning for sure. So I'll get all that stuff over to you as well.
Good. Excellent, very good. And have you been to our caucus website, Damien?
I have, yeah. I actually have, and I've been able to see it. I was very impressed with it and stuff. And so I even told Danny Leva, who helps Flora with the websites and the newsletters and stuff, that you guys had done a great job on there as well.
Thank you. Well, that's Ivan and a really strong, wonderful comms team. Yeah, thank you. As you know, I mean, communications are so important. We've got two main standing committees. We've got the Committee for Veterans Advocacy that is doing the advocacy, working with the legislators, checking the bills, tracking the bills, getting people to testify and give public comment during the sessions. But if you don't talk about what you're doing, people don't know. So communications is probably as important as the bread and butter, CBA committee that we have. It's crucial. You got to get the word out. And I don't think Dems do as good a job as the Republicans do. I don't know why. We need to toot our horn, let people know what we're doing.
Go ahead. Sorry, Davian. Go ahead.
No, I was just, Greg, I mean, you're absolutely right. They say what you say about them. They are always on message. They are always consistent, whether it's true or not. They're consistent, and they repeat the same thing over, and it's very digestible, right? And I think because we have a larger tent, we have a constituency that likes to get at least some details in there. It really kind of distracts from some of those things. But I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to be short, concise, and consistent, and then individually draw down to the people that are asking us for more specifics, because we do have all of that. But unfortunately, that sometimes is too much information for some people to process, even within our own party. And so that ends up what happens. And then we're just, I think by nature and by, culture, we're more humble type of personalities. And we have a sort of a harder time self-promoting ourselves. But we do need to do that as well. It like you said, it's very important for it to go. And I'm sorry, I cut you off there, Greg.
No worries. Well said. One of the things I was going to say is that's all that they do is the talk piece. They don't actually worry about the nuts and bolts of actually governing and the difficult parts. We see it right now in the Biden administration. Very little credit given to the fact that they had to come in and clean up a huge mess, right? And so while the previous team was there talking about how great they are, having a big party, it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe moms and dads, right? Mom has to come in and clean up and do all of this work, and dad gets all the credit as the big hero because he just talks. That's a bad analogy, but I do say that when I had to do a lot of Oppo research, I had to spend a lot of time listening to 770 all day, listening to all the right-wing folks here locally talking about their issues and kind of figuring out where the other side is at, right? Because that's one of the things that I did on the campaign team was figuring out where things are. And one thing I can tell you is that they don't bother with critical thinking. They don't bother with logical arguments, right? They love their straw man. They love their hyperbole, right? The other day they had a thing on, oh gosh, there's not the other day, but when they said they would just get mad about something that was in the news and have no arguments, nothing of substance, not 1 ounce of substance as to why they were mad about it. Just, can you believe this? Can you believe it? Right. And so that's all that they do. If you go look for the platform, for example, for the New Mexico Republican Party, go looking for it. It doesn't exist. They don't do the hard work of going through that stuff. So that's something that we're competing against. It is so much easier to fool somebody, to convince them of something untrue, than it is to explain to somebody that they've been fooled. And so for Democrats, we often spend a lot of time trying to unring bells that we're just not going to get to unring. Folks are going to believe that disinformation. We've got to press forward and find new ideas and new ways of moving forward so that those things aren't the conversation anymore. I think that's the ticket for a lot of us. We have to be substantive and we have to keep moving forward.
Those are really good points. And I want to welcome Kay and Carl, who are joining us a little bit later. Thanks so much for coming on board. Muriel, I'll take your question, but I want to say something here. You know, you were saying that, Damien, maybe Democrats are too humble. I think we're not looking at it the right way. The Republican Party is on a war footing. They are there to win. And they use whatever strategy they need to win. And we need to think about that. We don't want to become like them. We don't want to have misinformation out there. But we need to go right after them with the exact same kind of language. And we need to do it preemptively. We can't always be on the defense. I was at Indivisible Albuquerque's meeting a few weeks ago, and they had Randy McGinn as their guest speaker. And she was talking about communications. It was brilliant. Reach out to Randy and get that presentation. And she pointed out, this was really fascinating, that like you've got 3 words, you know, drain the swamp, lock her up. 3 words. And that's what we need to come up with and go right at it with them and be preemptive, you know, have an offense. Don't be on the defense. So for the people who are just coming in, we're kind of talking about communications. I was talking about the Veterans Caucus and how we've got 2 standing committees, and communications was probably as important as the other, because if you're doing wonderful things and you want people to help you, you have to communicate what you're doing. But Muriel, let me take your question now, ma'am.
You know, it wasn't so much of a question. I love what you just said, and what Greg said too, because what I've noticed in coming up against Republicans, and I listened to 772, is the anger. There's just this like anger that comes to you. I mean, I was registering voters once, and I know they were Republicans. They were against my registering voters, like I was doing something communistic or something. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say is that our environmental caucus is doing an inter-caucus movement right now to help with Build Back Better, of all things, because as we know, Mr. Manchin has decided that he's going to hold the entire country up by not getting on board. So Jared Ames, who's our chair of the environmental caucus, is contacting all the other caucuses, because what our plan is we're going to write letters, one letter to one letter, one New Mexican Democrat to one West Virginian Democrat, saying, get this guy off his butt and do something about this. And we're not going to come across angry, but we just want, we don't know what else to do. I mean, there's about 1 million more people in West Virginia than there are in New Mexico. But, you know, we're pretty comparable, really, when you look at that. It's not no New York State or something, or California. So I just wanted to let you know about that. I mean, it's a small thing, but I think, you know, it's something. We have to do something. I hate to see Biden's whole administration get sucked away, you know, by the vote of one person. And this is what we've thought of. So when you hear about this, I hope you can jump on board and write your letter and put your stamp on it. Right now, we're trying to get a list of the Democrats in West Virginia, and that in itself is interesting.
Thank you, Muriel. And so Jared reached out to me and I said, we're in, just let me know how we can help. So as soon as I get something, I'll pass it along to our entire caucus membership. And we're happy to write some letters and go after this guy. He is the enemy. We've identified him.